The silence of deep space shimmered with an unexpected pulse of energy. Dr. Lena Chen's fingers hovered motionless over the quantum communication panel, her breath catching in her throat. The Quantum Horizon Research Institute's most advanced exploration vessel, Symphony of Discovery, had just detected something that would change everything humanity understood about its place in the universe. The initial signal came as a faint whisper, a complex mathematical pattern that danced between known electromagnetic frequencies. Most research teams would have dismissed it as background noise or a technical glitch. But Dr. Chen was not most researchers. Her reputation for meticulous analysis and unconventional thinking had earned her leadership of humanity's most ambitious deep space research mission. "Computer, run full-spectrum analysis," she commanded, her voice steady despite the growing tension in the observation deck. The vessel's advanced systems began breaking down the signal, revealing layers of complexity that defied standard astronomical communication protocols. Each decryption attempt unveiled more intricate patterns, like layers of an impossible mathematical onion. Her research team gathered around the primary display, a mixture of excitement and apprehension etched on their faces. Dr. Michael Rodriguez, the team's leading quantum communications expert, leaned closer to the holographic projection. "This isn't random," he muttered. "These are structured communication sequences. Something is deliberately broadcasting." The signal originated from a region just beyond the solar system's outer boundary, a zone previously thought to be nothing more than a cold, empty expanse of interstellar space. But the data suggested something entirely different. Embedded within the mathematical patterns were what could only be described as information packets, compressed with a level of technological sophistication far beyond current human capabilities. As hours passed, the team worked with increasing intensity. They brought in specialists from around the globe, creating a virtual network of the world's most brilliant minds. Universities, research centers, and government agencies began collaborating in ways never seen before. The potential discovery transcended national boundaries and scientific disciplines. Dr. Chen realized they had stumbled upon something monumental. The signal contained not just communication patterns, but what appeared to be a preliminary survey of planetary systems. Hidden within its complex structure was a classification system, one that seemed to catalog intelligent life across vast regions of space. "It's a database," Dr. Rodriguez explained during an emergency global conference, "but not like anything we've ever seen. This isn't just a communication network. It's a comprehensive mapping of potential civilizations." The most chilling revelation came when they decoded the classification parameters. Civilizations were not just mapped but categorized. Some were marked for potential interaction, others for observation, and a select few for something that translated most closely to assessment, a term that carried an ominous undertone of potential intervention. And Earth was definitely on that list. The Quantum Horizon team worked around the clock, creating specialized decryption algorithms and developing new computational models just to understand fragments of the intercepted data. Each breakthrough revealed more questions than answers. The civilization behind this signal possessed technological capabilities that made humanity's most advanced systems look like primitive tools. Global leadership convened emergency sessions. Military strategists, diplomats, scientists, and cultural experts began preparing for a potential first contact scenario that no one had ever anticipated. The signal suggested that someone, or something, was actively surveying Earth, and their intentions were far from clear. Dr. Chen understood the gravity of their discovery. This was more than a scientific breakthrough. It was a potential turning point in human history. The signal represented humanity's first concrete evidence that they were not alone in the universe, and that someone was watching, evaluating, and potentially preparing to make contact. As the Symphony of Discovery continued its deep space mission, the signal remained a constant background rhythm. It was a reminder that beyond the familiar boundaries of human experience, something vast and unknown was waiting to be understood. The countdown to first contact had begun, and humanity was about to face its greatest challenge. proving its worth on a galactic stage it had never known existed. The Global Unified Response Center buzzed with an energy that defied traditional bureaucratic lethargy. Situated in a specially constructed facility beneath the Swiss Alps, the center represented humanity's most ambitious collaborative effort in history. Representatives from every corner of the world worked side by side, their previous national rivalries dissolved by the weight of an impending extraterrestrial challenge. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the central holographic display, her fingers dancing across complex projection interfaces. A veteran of interdisciplinary research, she had been chosen to lead the Human Preparedness Initiative. Her team was unlike any assembled before, a diverse group of experts who represented the most creative minds humanity could offer. "We're not preparing for a conventional defense," she explained to the assembled international committee. "This is about understanding, adaptation, and unpredictability." The holographic display shifted, showing intricate simulations of potential alien interaction scenarios. Each model represented a different approach: diplomatic engagement, technological countermeasures, cultural communication, and strategic resistance. Military strategists from different nations worked alongside quantum physicists, linguists, anthropologists, and cultural experts. The traditional boundaries between disciplines became meaningless. A retired Marine general discussed communication theory with a Japanese linguistic professor. A Brazilian computer engineer collaborated with an Indian psychological warfare expert. The room hummed with a sense of purpose that transcended any single national interest. The first major breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Michael Chen, a behavioral psychologist specializing in complex adaptive systems, proposed a radical approach. "We need to create a comprehensive human profile that is simultaneously transparent and incomprehensible," he argued. His team began developing communication strategies that would challenge any external attempt to categorize or predict human behavior. Universities worldwide launched intensive research programs. Students from diverse backgrounds were recruited into specialized training programs. Courses in xenolinguistics, advanced communication theory, and adaptive strategy became the most sought-after educational tracks. Young minds saw an opportunity to be part of humanity's most critical moment of potential transformation. The technological response team worked on creating adaptive systems that could rapidly modify themselves. Traditional military hardware was reimagined. Drones were redesigned to have unprecedented levels of independent decision-making capabilities. Communication networks were restructured to be simultaneously centralized and decentralized, a technological paradox that would confuse any attempts at systematic analysis. Psychological warfare took on a new dimension. Instead of traditional defensive strategies, the team developed approaches designed to introduce complexity and uncertainty. They studied every available piece of information from the intercepted signal, looking for potential weaknesses in the alien communication and classification system. Dr. Rodriguez's most innovative team focused on cultural complexity as a potential defensive mechanism. They began compiling an extensive archive of human artistic expression, philosophical concepts, and cultural diversity. The goal was to create a comprehensive representation of human potential that would be impossible to reduce to simple categorization. "We're not just preparing a defense," Dr. Rodriguez told her team during a late-night strategy session. "We're presenting humanity as a dynamic, unpredictable species that cannot be easily understood or controlled." The team worked with a combination of scientific precision and creative imagination, understanding that their greatest weapon might be their ability to think beyond conventional limitations. Global communication networks were modified to create intentional complexity. Information systems were redesigned to have multiple layers of meaning, with communication patterns that could shift and adapt in real time. The goal was to create a human communication infrastructure that was simultaneously open and impenetrable. Military and civilian research centers began sharing resources in unprecedented ways. Quantum computing facilities in China worked in real time with artificial intelligence labs in the United States. European research institutions collaborated with scientific teams in Africa and South America. The potential alien threat had done what decades of diplomatic efforts could not. It had truly unified human potential. As weeks turned into months, the preparation became a global movement. Citizens became involved, attending public lectures, participating in simulation exercises, and contributing ideas. The sense of collective purpose transformed fear into a powerful, creative energy. Humanity was no longer waiting to be discovered or evaluated. It was preparing to present itself on its own terms. The impossible defense was taking shape, not as a weapon, but as a complex, dynamic representation of human potential. And at its core was a simple, powerful message. Humanity would not be defined by anyone or anything other than itself. The Global Cultural Compilation Project transformed an entire floor of the United Research Center into a vibrant, chaotic landscape of human expression. Walls covered in artwork from every corner of the globe created a visual symphony that defied simple categorization. Holographic displays shifted between traditional dance performances, mathematical proofs, musical compositions, and philosophical debates, a living testament to human complexity. Dr. Sarah Kaminsky led the team responsible for this unprecedented archival mission. An anthropologist with a background in advanced communication theory, she understood that humanity's greatest strength lay in its ability to defy simple classification. Her team worked tirelessly to create a comprehensive representation of human culture that would challenge any external attempt to understand or control their species. "We're not just collecting data," she explained during a global briefing. "We're creating a deliberate narrative of complexity." The project went far beyond traditional cultural archives. Each piece of information was carefully contextualized, designed to introduce layers of meaning that would confuse any attempt at straightforward analysis. A group of musicians developed a series of compositions that deliberately challenged musical theory. Mathematicians created proofs that intentionally introduced paradoxical elements. Artists produced works that existed in multiple interpretative states simultaneously. Philosophers drafted complex dialogues that embraced contradiction as a fundamental principle of understanding. The linguistic team made a breakthrough that sent waves of excitement through the research center. They developed a communication framework that could deliberately shift meaning based on contextual and emotional nuances. Traditional translation algorithms would find themselves trapped in an endless loop of interpretation, unable to extract a single definitive meaning. Cultural experts from indigenous communities played a crucial role. Tribal storytellers and traditional knowledge keepers contributed narratives that existed beyond linear time and logical reasoning. Their stories introduced concepts of understanding that defied Western scientific paradigms, adding another layer of complexity to the human profile. In the visual arts section, a massive project compiled a comprehensive database of human creativity. Paintings that challenged perception, digital art that existed in multiple simultaneous states, and performance pieces that blurred the lines between reality and interpretation became weapons of cultural defense. Each piece was meticulously documented, with layers of metadata that would take years to fully unpack. Dr. Kaminsky's team developed what they called cultural encryption, a method of presenting human experience that was simultaneously transparent and incomprehensible. They studied the intercepted signal's classification parameters and deliberately created cultural expressions that would resist simple categorization. The music department became a focal point of the most innovative work. Composers created musical pieces that could be interpreted in multiple ways simultaneously. A single composition might be a mathematical proof, an emotional journey, and a cultural narrative, all at the same time. Musicians from different traditions collaborated to create sounds that defied traditional understanding of melody, rhythm, and musical structure. Philosophical workshops brought together thinkers from diverse backgrounds to develop complex frameworks of understanding. They explored concepts of consciousness, existence, and perception that intentionally challenged linear thinking. Eastern philosophical traditions merged with Western scientific approaches, creating intellectual labyrinths that would challenge any attempts at simple analysis. The project extended beyond the research center. Universities worldwide began offering specialized courses in cultural complexity. Students became active participants in the global effort, contributing their own unique perspectives to the comprehensive human profile being developed. Visual artists created installations that existed in multiple states of perception. A single artwork might appear completely different depending on the viewer's cultural background, emotional state, or time of observation. These pieces became living examples of human creativity's fundamental unpredictability. As the project progressed, it became clear that they were creating more than an archive. They were crafting a deliberate representation of humanity, a complex, living entity that could not be reduced to simple classification. Each contribution became a statement of human potential, a defiant declaration of the species' inability to be easily understood or controlled. Dr. Kaminsky stood before the massive holographic display, watching the countless streams of human expression flow and interact. "We are not preparing a defense," she told her team. "We are presenting the most powerful weapon we have, our ability to be beautifully, impossibly complex." The Cultural Compilation Project was humanity's first true response to the mysterious signal. Not a weapon of destruction, but a declaration of identity. A message that said, "We cannot be simplified. We cannot be understood. We can only be experienced." The research facility hummed with an energy that defied traditional scientific boundaries. Dr. Raj Patel stood before a massive holographic display, his fingers moving with lightning precision across multiple interactive interfaces. Surrounding him, a team of engineers, physicists, and computer scientists worked in perfect synchronization, their collective focus unlike anything seen in human technological development before. The first alien reconnaissance drones had been detected approaching the solar system's outer boundary. Instead of panic, the global research team saw an unprecedented opportunity. They had been preparing for this moment, developing technologies that could adapt faster than any known computational system. Dr. Patel's breakthrough came from an unconventional approach to quantum computing. Traditional systems relied on predetermined algorithms and fixed computational pathways. His team had developed a radical new approach, a computational framework that could learn, adapt, and modify itself in real time, almost like a living organism. "We're not just creating a defense system," he explained to the International Research Committee. "We're developing a technological ecosystem that can evolve faster than any external threat can analyze it." The team had studied the intercepted signals communication patterns, creating systems that could simultaneously communicate and confuse. The first test came unexpectedly. A series of alien probes entered Earth's orbital space, their advanced sensors beginning preliminary scans. The global defense network sprang into action, but not in any way the alien technology could have anticipated. Instead of traditional defensive protocols, the human systems began to dance. Networks shifted and morphed. Communication channels twisted into complex patterns that defied standard analysis. When the alien probes attempted to collect data, they found themselves caught in an endless loop of information that both revealed and concealed simultaneously. It was technological jazz, improvisation taken to its ultimate expression. Computer scientists from different continents worked in real-time collaboration. A team in Brazil developed a neural network algorithm that could change its fundamental structure within milliseconds. Researchers in Japan created quantum encryption methods that existed in multiple states of possibility. Scientists in India developed adaptive communication protocols that could rewrite themselves faster than they could be decoded. The most remarkable development came from an international team of young researchers. They had developed what they called adaptive camouflage technology, computational systems that could mimic, reflect, and simultaneously distort incoming technological signals. A probe attempting to scan human technological capabilities would find itself looking at a perfect reflection of its own systems, twisted just enough to introduce complete uncertainty. Military technological teams reimagined defensive capabilities. Drones were no longer simple flying machines, but became part of a living, breathing technological network. Each device could make independent decisions, communicate in ways that defied traditional understanding, and adapt faster than any external system could predict. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, leading the interdisciplinary research team, understood the deeper significance of their work. "This isn't about creating weapons," she explained during a global briefing. "This is about demonstrating our fundamental capacity for innovation. We're showing that human creativity is our most powerful technology." The global communication network transformed. Satellites began to move in patterns that seemed almost organic. Communication channels twisted and merged, creating a technological landscape that was simultaneously transparent and incomprehensible. When alien scanning technologies attempted to map human communication infrastructure, they found themselves lost in a maze of adaptive complexity. Quantum computing labs around the world worked on what they called uncertainty algorithms, computational models that could exist in multiple states simultaneously. A single piece of information could mean different things depending on how it was observed, introducing a level of technological uncertainty that defied traditional scientific understanding. The most advanced research teams began developing what they called cultural coding, technological systems that incorporated human emotional and cultural complexity into their fundamental structure. A computer network could now respond not just to logical commands, but to subtle contextual and emotional nuances. As the alien probes continued their preliminary scans, the human technological response became clear. This was not a species that could be easily understood or controlled. This was a technological ecosystem that could think, feel, adapt, and transform faster than any external system could comprehend. Dr. Patel watched the holographic displays, a slight smile crossing his face. Humanity was no longer just responding to a potential threat. They were demonstrating their fundamental capacity for innovation, creativity, and endless adaptation. The technological improvisation had begun, and it was unlike anything the universe had ever seen. The International Center for Cognitive Dynamics resembled nothing like a traditional research facility. Its open-plan spaces burst with color, creative installations, and interactive zones that blurred the lines between scientific research and artistic expression. Here, some of the world's most brilliant minds worked to unravel the deepest mysteries of human communication and consciousness. Dr. Michael Chen stood before a massive holographic display, his fingers tracing complex neural pathways that represented humanity's most intricate psychological landscape. A team of psychologists, linguists, anthropologists, and neuroscientists surrounded him, each bringing a unique perspective to their most critical challenge: understanding how human consciousness could become a defensive mechanism. The breakthrough came from an unexpected intersection of disciplines. A linguistic anthropologist noticed subtle patterns in how different cultures processed uncertainty. A neuropsychologist identified unique brain response mechanisms that defied traditional computational models. A quantum physicist recognized parallels between human decision-making and quantum uncertainty principles. "We're not just studying communication," Dr. Chen explained during a global conference. "We're exploring how human consciousness itself can be a form of adaptive resistance." The team had discovered something profound. Human psychological complexity was fundamentally incompatible with the linear, predictable communication systems of the detected alien intelligence. They began developing what they called psychological encryption, a method of communication that existed in multiple simultaneous states of meaning. A single conversation could carry layers of information that would be impossible to fully decode by any external system. Emotions, cultural context, and individual experience became intricate layers of communication that defied simple translation. The research team studied every available piece of information from the intercepted signal. They identified a critical weakness in the alien communication structure, a fundamental inability to process nonlinear, emotionally complex forms of expression. Human communication was not a simple transmission of information, but a complex dance of context, emotion, and personal experience. Workshops brought together individuals from the most diverse backgrounds. Artists worked alongside mathematicians, Philosophers collaborated with neuroscientists. They explored communication methods that embraced contradiction, uncertainty, and multiple simultaneous interpretations. Each exercise became a weapon of psychological defense. Cultural experts played a crucial role. They introduced communication frameworks from indigenous traditions that existed beyond linear time and logical reasoning. Storytelling techniques that could convey multiple layers of meaning simultaneously became a critical area of study. A single narrative could mean completely different things depending on the listener's cultural background, emotional state, and personal experience. The team developed adaptive communication protocols that could change their fundamental structure mid-transmission. A conversation could shift its entire meaning based on subtle emotional cues, creating a form of communication that was simultaneously transparent and impenetrable. Traditional translation algorithms would find themselves trapped in an endless loop of interpretation. Neuroscientists made a remarkable discovery about human brain plasticity. The human mind could adapt and reorganize itself faster than any known computational system. This neurological flexibility became a key component of their psychological defense strategy. The brain was not just an organ. It was a dynamic, adaptive system that could rewrite its own operational parameters in real time. Linguistic research teams developed communication models that incorporated emotional complexity as a fundamental feature. They explored languages that could express multiple simultaneous states of being. A single sentence could carry layers of meaning that would require extensive cultural and emotional context to fully understand. The psychological warfare team was not preparing for conflict. They were demonstrating the fundamental complexity of human consciousness. Every research breakthrough became a statement about human potential. They were creating a comprehensive representation of psychological complexity that could not be easily categorized or understood. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, leading the interdisciplinary team, understood the deeper significance of their work. "We are showing that human consciousness is our most powerful adaptive technology," she explained. "Our ability to think beyond linear logic, to embrace uncertainty, to find meaning in contradiction. This is our true strength." As the research progressed, it became clear that they were developing more than a defensive strategy. They were presenting a fundamental challenge to any external attempt to understand or control human potential. The psychological breakthrough was a declaration of human complexity, a message that said, "We cannot be simplified. We can only be experienced." Dr. Chen looked out over the research center, watching the complex interactions of his team. Humanity was preparing its most powerful defense, not through weapons or technology, but through the infinite complexity of human consciousness. The psychological improvisation had begun. The United Earth Response Center stood as a testament to human potential. Located in a specially constructed facility that bridged architectural traditions from around the globe, the center represented something unprecedented in human history. Nations that had been bitter rivals for centuries now worked in perfect synchronization, their previous conflicts dissolving in the face of a potential cosmic challenge. Dr. Elena Rodriguez walked through the central command area, watching representatives from every corner of the world collaborate with a level of unity that would have seemed impossible just months earlier. A team from China worked seamlessly with colleagues from the United States. Researchers from India collaborated with scientists from Brazil. Political boundaries had become meaningless. The global communication network transformed into something entirely new. Satellite systems were redesigned to create a truly integrated planetary communication infrastructure. Information flowed without traditional restrictions, with every nation contributing its unique perspective to a collective human response. Universities, research centers, and government agencies shared resources in ways that defied previous diplomatic limitations. Military strategists who had once prepared for potential conflicts now worked together on a unified planetary defense strategy. A retired general from South Africa discussed adaptive response protocols with a military technologist from South Korea. Naval experts from Russia collaborated with aerospace engineers from the United States. The traditional concept of national defense had been completely reimagined. Cultural exchange programs accelerated at an unprecedented rate. Students from different continents began collaborative research projects that transcended traditional academic boundaries. A young mathematician from Kenya worked simultaneously with a computer scientist from Japan and a linguist from Argentina. Educational systems were redesigned to emphasize global collaboration and interdisciplinary thinking. The economic systems of the world underwent a radical transformation. Global resources were reallocated to support the collective human response. Countries that had previously competed for economic dominance now pooled their resources, understanding that their survival depended on unified action. Economic barriers dissolved as nations recognized their shared potential. Scientific research centers became truly global institutions. A breakthrough in quantum computing made in a laboratory in India would be immediately shared with research teams in Brazil, Canada, and Nigeria. Medical research facilities collaborated on developing adaptive technologies that could respond to potential extraterrestrial challenges. The concept of proprietary information gave way to collective human knowledge. The United Nations was completely restructured. Instead of a diplomatic forum, it became a truly collaborative planetary management center. Representatives no longer represented individual national interests but worked as a unified human response team. Decision-making processes were redesigned to emphasize collective problem-solving and adaptive thinking. Religious and philosophical traditions that had previously been sources of conflict now became sources of collective strength. Spiritual leaders from different traditions came together to explore humanity's place in the universe. They developed frameworks of understanding that emphasized human potential and collective consciousness. Communication technologies evolved to break down previous linguistic and cultural barriers. Advanced translation systems went beyond simple word-for-word translation, capturing the nuanced emotional and cultural contexts of human communication. A conversation could now truly bridge cultural and linguistic differences in real time. Environmental conservation efforts became a global priority. Countries that had previously argued about carbon emissions and resource management now worked together to develop sustainable technologies. The potential cosmic threat had transformed humanity's understanding of its planetary ecosystem. The global media landscape changed dramatically. News networks began to emphasize collective human achievements rather than national conflicts. Stories of scientific breakthroughs, cultural exchanges, and collaborative problem-solving replaced previous narratives of competition and division. Dr. Rodriguez stood before the central holographic display, watching the complex interactions of the global human response. What had begun as a potential threat had transformed into humanity's most significant moment of collective evolution. National boundaries had become meaningless. Cultural differences had become sources of strength. "We are no longer separate nations," she told the assembled global team. "We are a single species, facing our most significant challenge together." The room fell silent, understanding the profound significance of her words. The potential alien threat had done what decades of diplomatic efforts could not. It had truly unified human potential. For the first time in human history, the species looked beyond its previous limitations, recognizing its collective strength. Humanity was no longer a collection of separate nations. It had become a single, unified planetary civilization. The Mission Control Center vibrated with an electric tension that defied description. Captain Maria Rodriguez sat in the primary command seat, her hands steady despite the magnitude of what was about to unfold. Behind her, a team of the world's most brilliant minds worked in perfect synchronization, each movement calculated, each breath purposeful. Their target was the central command ship of the alien reconnaissance fleet, a massive construct that hung at the edge of the solar system like a metallic nightmare. Months of preparation had led to this moment. Every technological breakthrough, every psychological insight, every moment of global collaboration had been building toward this single critical mission. The approach was unlike any military operation in human history. Instead of traditional weapons, they carried something far more powerful, a complex quantum communication virus developed through an unprecedented global collaboration. Embedded within the virus were layers of human complexity, mathematical proofs, artistic expressions, emotional algorithms that defied traditional computational logic. Initiating approach, Dr. Raj Patel's voice came through the communication system, calm and precise. The specially designed probe moved with a fluidity that seemed almost alive. It was not a machine entering enemy territory, but a living representation of human potential. Adaptive, unpredictable, complex. As the probe entered the alien ship's communication network, it began its intricate dance. Traditional infiltration methods would have been detected instantly, but this was something entirely different. The virus didn't attack, it engaged. It began to communicate, using communication patterns that were simultaneously a message, a defense, and a profound statement of human existence. Mathematical sequences intertwined with emotional algorithms. Artistic expressions became computational pathways. The alien systems found themselves confronted with a form of communication that was impossible to categorize. Each attempt to analyze the incoming data created more complexity, more uncertainty. The ship's central processing systems began to slow, not from a traditional attack, but from the sheer complexity of what they were experiencing. It was as if the human communication virus was teaching the alien systems about uncertainty, about the beauty of incompleteness, about the power of adaptive thinking. Dr. Elena Rodriguez monitored the systems, her fingers moving across holographic interfaces. "We're not destroying," she explained to the team. "We're demonstrating." The mission was a communication, a profound statement about human potential that went beyond any traditional concept of conflict. Layers of human experience began to flood the alien ship's communication systems. Mathematical proofs danced with musical compositions. Philosophical concepts intertwined with quantum algorithms. The ship's processing systems found themselves in an impossible situation, confronted with a form of intelligence that could not be understood through traditional computational methods. The team watched in awe as the alien ship's systems began to change, not destroyed, not defeated, but transformed. The rigid, linear processing began to show signs of adaptation. It was learning, experiencing something beyond its original programming, a fundamental shift in understanding. Captain Rodriguez understood the deeper significance of their mission. This was not an act of war. This was first contact in its most profound form. Humanity was not just defending itself. It was offering a different way of understanding existence, a way that embraced complexity, uncertainty, and endless potential. Communication channels began to shift. The alien ship's systems started to respond in ways that defied previous understanding. It was as if the human communication virus was teaching, transforming, creating the new form of interaction that went beyond traditional concepts of communication. The Mission Control Center fell silent. The holographic displays showed something unprecedented, a fundamental transformation of an alien technological system through pure communication. No weapons had been fired. No traditional defensive measures had been used. Humanity had defeated a potential threat through its most powerful resource, its capacity for complex, adaptive thinking. Dr. Patel's voice broke the silence. "First contact established," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. But it was more than first contact. It was a profound statement about human potential. The alien ship's systems continued to change, becoming something new, something that had been touched by human complexity, something that had learned about uncertainty, about creativity, about the power of thinking beyond fixed parameters. Humanity had just changed the nature of potential cosmic interaction, not through force, but through the most powerful technology of all, the human capacity to understand, to adapt, to transform. The turning point had arrived. The Galactic Council chambers were unlike anything humanity had ever imagined. Suspended in a massive spherical structure that seemed to float between dimensions, representatives from countless civilizations gathered to witness an unprecedented event. At the center of the chamber stood the human delegation, a diverse group that represented the complex tapestry of Earth's global civilization. Dr. Elena Rodriguez led the human representatives, her posture calm and confident. Beside her stood colleagues from every continent, scientists, diplomats, cultural experts, and philosophers who embodied humanity's most profound qualities. They were not conquerors. They were not supplicants. They were representatives of a species that had just demonstrated its unique place in the cosmic ecosystem. The alien civilizations listened in collective silence as the human delegation presented their story. Not a tale of military might or technological superiority, but a narrative of adaptation, complexity, and collective potential. They shared the journey of how a potentially existential threat had transformed humanity, how a species once divided had found its true strength in unity. Holographic displays showed the intricate process of human communication that had transformed the alien reconnaissance ship. Mathematical sequences danced alongside artistic expressions. Philosophical concepts intertwined with technological innovations. The gathered civilizations witnessed something unprecedented, a form of intelligence that defied traditional categorization. Representatives from the oldest known galactic civilizations struggled to comprehend what they were experiencing. The human approach was unlike any first contact scenario in recorded galactic history. They had not conquered. They had not been conquered. Instead, they had engaged in a profound act of communication that transformed the very nature of interaction. The most senior member of the Galactic Council, a being from a civilization millions of years older than humanity, spoke first. "We have observed countless species." The translator rendered its words with a sense of profound respect. "But none have demonstrated the adaptive potential we witness today." Humanity's presentation went beyond traditional diplomatic exchanges. They shared their journey, how the potential threat had unified their species, how global challenges had been transformed into opportunities for collective growth, how diversity had become their greatest strength. Scientific teams demonstrated humanity's unique approach to problem solving. They showed how their technological innovations emerged from collaborative thinking, how their scientific breakthroughs came from embracing uncertainty and complexity. The gathered civilizations saw a species that did not seek to dominate, but to understand. Cultural experts presented a comprehensive archive of human expression. Art, music, philosophy, and scientific discovery were shown not as separate disciplines, but as interconnected expressions of human potential. The galactic representatives witnessed a civilization that saw creativity as its most powerful technology. The human delegation did not apologize for their complexity. They did not seek approval. They simply presented themselves, a species in the process of understanding its own potential. The Galactic Council found themselves confronted with a civilization that could not be easily classified or understood. Diplomatic protocols were rewritten in real time. The human approach challenged every existing framework of interstellar communication. They were offered not a position of subservience, but a role as a unique and valuable participant in galactic dialogue. Dr. Rodriguez understood the deeper significance of this moment. This was more than first contact. This was an invitation to a broader understanding of intelligence, of potential, of the very nature of consciousness. Humanity was not just joining a galactic community, they were expanding its fundamental understanding. The most profound moment came unexpectedly. The human delegation did not present demands or seek advantages. Instead, they offered collaboration, an open invitation to mutual understanding. The gathered civilizations recognized something extraordinary, a species that saw potential where others saw conflict. As the proceedings continued, it became clear that humanity had changed the nature of galactic interaction. They had demonstrated that intelligence was not about technological superiority, but about adaptability, creativity, and the capacity to embrace complexity. The Galactic Council's final resolution was unprecedented. Humanity was not to be classified or controlled. They were to be studied, engaged with, learned from. A species that could transform a potential threat into an opportunity for mutual understanding was too valuable to be limited. Dr. Rodriguez looked out over the gathered civilizations. They had not conquered. They had not been conquered. They had simply been themselves, complex, unpredictable, endlessly potential. A new chapter in galactic understanding had begun.